What is up, everyone? This is Nightmare, and welcome to The Dive, the show where we plunge into the depths of creativity, uncovering the stories, inspirations, and journeys of artists making their mark in the NFT and ordinal space. Today, we go beneath the surface with Sir Gadfly, a glitch art storyteller who merges chaos, beauty, and narrative to craft raw, impactful pieces on the blockchain. So let's dive in, Sir Gadfly. So very hyped to have you with us here today.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure, man. Good morning, everyone from NorCal. Hey, man, happy to be here.
And hopefully your internet stays with us. You said that you were under some grove trees and on a farm, so I don't know exactly what your setup is, but it makes me even more impressed with the output that you get if that's what you're doing while you're churning butter or whatever you were describing going on.
Oh, we're cooking. Thank you, Elon, for the Starlink. The Starlink makes it all happen out here.
I love it. I love it. If anyone's not familiar with Whale, we are an OG community of NFT and Web3 enthusiasts. We have one of the largest vaults of OG crypto art in the world, and certainly we are involved in all things Web3, from the metaverse to Web3 gaming as well. But near and dear to our hearts are people that are really moving the needle and pushing with innovative things on the blockchain. And your story in particular is one that's caught my attention from a long time ago. I believe I may have collected one of your first pieces when you started minting and sharing it publicly, and it's been awesome to watch your journey to where you are today, and kind of your status of where you are with the Ordinals community and everything that you do there.
Yeah, I appreciate you, man. You caught my earliest piece was an ETH piece that was helped out by a good friend who's a legend in the space as well, and I'm always trying to make stuff with intention and purpose and thoughts, and it was a piece that I had acquired some stems and elements from Snoop Dogg. Snoop had done some stuff where he, owned the Death Row Records, and he put some stuff out there that you could acquire, and by doing that, he was allowing people to, take the stems. So I had picked up October London's vocals and took had purchased several of his pieces, which I just love Snoop and what he's done to push the needle, and I mashed this piece together and went, and I love the $2 bill and the number two, and cut it up and really did this dark, thoughtful piece about war. Um, and the lyrics from October London, which he thought it was banging. It's really nice when the artists, really appreciate your work, and just have been down this journey, coming into this, what I call short form storytelling space, because I originate in long form, and having come from television and kids TV and directing Power Rangers, and doing Spider-Man and Goosebumps and all those kind of things into, editing, and, I'm in the Writers Guild and the Editors Guild. So, I just have moved into the ordinal space when that came about. And I just fell in love, man, when it just all clicked in my mind, and it made a lot of sense. And there was a mad dash. I think my first inscription I was a little in the 100,000s at about 137, and I kind of didn't know what I was doing. We were all just kind of trying to put art on chain, and I had inscribed my signature back in the 140,000. So I've been parenting that. There wasn't even this concept of parent child at the time, and my actual first pieces that I had acquired in the ordinal space were OTC. I had picked up a piece by a group called Gold Rush. I live in the Sierra foothills up in the gold country, and I'm a gold nut by nature, and I love, that's Ergo Glitch Gold, which is my first collection, and so it's just been an incredible journey to, play with the art, and try and work within the constraints of this cap of 400 kilobits, which, is just it's unusually small when you come
Right.
from a world of, terabytes and gigabytes. So
Yeah, and this is a little out of order for me, but I think that when I look at your work as a whole, I really love to start with that piece because just to you can kind of see, so obviously before I even knew anything about your background, and just seeing how this was taken and put together with the various pieces and the level of detail, you were definitely telling a story with a cohesive concept. And then it's fascinating to me to see the evolution to where you've got to now, especially like you said, dealing with some of the constraints that happen with ordinals and what's available with Bitcoin by nature, because you're actually inscribing on the blocks. So it's a great precedent to set for everybody as we kind of walk through your journey. But before we move forward anywhere, someone had actually asked in the lead up to this show what your name was about, Sir Gadfly. Could you kind of shed a little light on that for us?
Absolutely, yeah. So Gadfly is a reference to Socrates, and
Okay.
having gone to college and studying Greek and Roman literature, there's that whole, to me, the study of language was not necessarily about, the depth, because there's the whole perception card, and there's all these different angles of intellect, of in the sense, if you can understand sentence structure and how to communicate and write, you can pretty much weave vernacular through language, and then be perceived as whatever you want to be. Not that has a relevance, but um, the whole Gadfly component of it was just to be thoughtful and to be purposeful. And he was considered the pester, is what I believe it was Socrates referred, or Plato referred to Socrates in trial in court. And that was just it. I want people to think. I want to, leave kind of a mark. You know what I mean? And make people think. And sometimes I don't think people are quite get some of the stuff. There's so many layers and depth. And coming into Bitcoin, it's been like incredible. And you saw my early work, and my mother passed away last year, and that early ETH work was really it was really deep. My mom had dementia and would wander, and I ended up setting up an iMac Pro in her kitchen so I could watch her at night. And I had these late night sessions. So some of that real early work, my mom had a hand in, and
Okay.
she was like, I would ask her, and we would she would give me notes and stuff, and I there's it almost tear up in a way, but yeah, just playing with stamps and cutting stuff apart, it was it gave me something to do while I was kind of taking care of my mom, and God rest her soul and whatnot. But yeah, I think I got a little distracted there with the
No,
whole
no, no,
block.
that's beautiful. I mean, that just goes to show, really imbuing the blockchain and leaving our mark on it to kind of live on. And that's kind of multi-pronged with you, especially with that work, having worked with your mother. But yeah, the early works, on Ethereum, and then the progression over to ordinals is something that's been fascinating to watch. You mentioned that you're in Cali. I assume born and raised from some of the things that I've seen. You had a history in Hollywood as well, right? Writing, editing,
I
eventually,
did, yep.
things like Hoarders, Dr. Phil's, Paramount Pictures, Fox Kids, Power Rangers. Like you kind of ran the gamut of different things that you were doing there. Were you always creating art on the side as part of what you do, or is that just kind of part of the process of what you were doing, in Hollywood, or when you were a kid, were you creating as well?
It's looking back at it, yeah, I would say that it's always kind of been there. Even in college, the storytelling. I think it's more about storytelling than making the art. I think the art is a manifestation of wanting to just connect, um, and be and just make something that has a life of its own, and the viewer will take it and find what they find out of it. Um, but yeah, I've always kind of been dabbling in painting and doing small things, and then just going into this digital space. I think I had a little bit of a leg up when the Ordinals thing came around, because having known no After Effects and a lot of the platforms, and Avid Media Composer, and some of the plugins and tools, and um, the conversation of compression was something that I had already understood, and it was just a matter of fine tuning. Um, you know, we really didn't know what we were doing in the beginning, and there was a platform called Gamma that was really good, um, just a very good beginner's place. And if you look at the early work, and this is a conversation I could have offline with many artists, and it almost warrants its own space, but um, having done my early glitch gold and GIF files, and really not even understanding, or there wasn't even a knowledge of this 400 kilobit file limit. Gamma had provided a platform that was compressing on the backside, and I didn't know that, but I didn't quite understand how the files ended up looking the way they did. And then just after the fact, learning of that compression, and then once you understand that, and then Gamma has a thing where you can do it uncompressed now, but at that time we didn't really know what we were doing, and so um, to try and utilize and maximize the block space, is just incredible. Like, I embrace that. I just love that component of it. And now that, moving, and for any artists out there, for me, the sweet spot was about 1024 by 1024 dimension wise. And then moving to WebP, compression. WebP has an animated component to it, and just trying to advance the space and do some really cool stuff. I think I did if not some of the earliest parent-child work over at satting.io ended up being kind of the platform that I really love to inscribe off of. And there's so many different combinations of using the Unisat wallet. And it's this, there's been some massive, I think there was a 2 Bitcoin purchase of Block 9 450Xs in the last 24, 48 hours to the rare sat space. And it's funny because I've been inscribing on rare sats. I mean, any artist who really loves their work would always seek out the best canvas, and having, put your story onto a canvas with purpose, I think, to me is important. I want my art on, cool stuff. And, in the beginning, we didn't really have that option. I did notice that when we were inscribing in the beginning, it was using, I happened to have my Bitcoin, and my Bitcoin had come through Coinbase, and it was injecting the art into the Bitcoin that you were purchasing or paying the fees with. And so I was fortunate enough to have some Bitcoin that was from 2012 and 2011, and I did have some 2009 stuff. So this was back before there was a meta of rare sats, or put it this way, there were some people that knew what was going on, like ZK had purpose, but he was a massively advanced user from the newbies that, like myself, that were coming into the space, who are now super educated and more than happy to share and talk about this stuff. But I love the nines. I mean, that story of Satoshi Nakamoto and the 78s. That's why the whole the Hoodlum collection is all on 78s, and just to keep Hal's legacy alive. And we've been donating to ALS, which was what took Hal's life, and just honoring those people, honoring the legacy, and who's made the space and shaped the space. So, and the Hoodlums are, again, that was the first move into WebP. And WebP gives you it's about a 50 to 60% file size reduction. And those are all 6-frame animations. So, just getting these animations down, the glitch gold, there were some 70 frames in there. But it's, it's a process, and it's so fun. And just what's happening with Recode, like, just to pivot over to there, Recode came about. It is Casey's work, and Casey loves the collection. I had a chance to chat with him. He's actually collected from the collection. He liked number 42, and so that's what is in his possession.
I'd love to talk about that in more depth actually, as we move
Yeah,
forward in the interview. But before I forget some of the questions that came up
yep.
while you were sharing some of this stuff, because our community, as OG as it is, I think we coalesced and came together as Whale. I think in May 2020, a lot of us were collecting long before that. Of course, Whale Shark, you know, kind of set the template there for many of us and how we collect and what we do, which is collect what we love and things that intrinsically are meaningful to us from a cultural perspective. So, of course, Recode definitely ticks all of those boxes. But we are not an Ordinals first community. And when the Ordinals movement kind of started popping, you know, in our Discord and some of our different forums and rooms, people were talking about like, hey, we're trying to figure this out. And people that never had before started running nodes. You know, we're all shuffling around the spreadsheets trying to understand how to participate. And even now to this day, it's kind of it's been challenging for some of the people that are very active collectors even to wrap their head around some of this. So you know, you talking about the constraints that you're working with, especially with the objective that you really want to be able to tell a story, and all of a sudden you only have this number of limited frames and this amount of kilobytes, is pretty fascinating from a execution standpoint, like from a technical standpoint. But definitely even more impressive when I hear like how almost excited you are about the challenge. I don't know if I'm reading into that a little bit too much, but it sounds like that's something that, you know, that you kind of relish the opportunity to try to push the limits and do.
Yeah, and you explore that space like you know, dead space, you start embracing the blacks and the dead colors because they don't take compression. um
Right.
you know, and there's a lot of ways to embrace it. And you'll notice that I have some of the largest files out there. You know, a lot of people have moved into the generative art space because it is more cost effective. You know, it's a lot more affordable. I was helping Pyman put some art on. I wanted to make sure that he got it on in 2024 and didn't wait till 25. And you know, it adds up. I've paid up to $1,300 to inscribe, you know, a piece of art. Um,
Wow.
and but then you learn like I will make art, I'll go in waves and I'll just wait. I've waited now up to 3 to 4 months to inscribe. It makes sense to wait, you know, and the pool has been really cooperative lately. You know, in the case of my stuff, which averages probably 310 kilobits, you know, on a really affordable day, that's about $160. And, you know, if you have a time constraint and you need to get it on chain, you're going to pay the price. And that could be, you know, on average, you know, the hoodlums, I've probably spent about 60K inscribing.
Wow.
Um, and and that's because I believe in the work and I believe in the process and I believe that there'll be a time where um, it will be um, astronomically expensive to inscribe it. Um, and I've inscribed my kids' work. And at the time when it was starting to happen, I was inscribing everything I could think of. I even inscribed a picture of me directing Power Rangers back in the 100Ks. Um, and I just think that it's going to advance. You know, you know, we're still early, and I do think that, you know, the conversation of Bitcoin will not be as prominent as the conversations for Satoshis. I think at some point it'll get granular and people will be talking about trading Satoshis. And, you know, even at $1 million market cap or $1 million price point on Bitcoin, you know, that's a penny a Satoshi. And I've actually been buying collections recently on block nines because they're so undervalued. And and I I think there will be a point where, you know, some of this early art that, you know, I'm picking up block nine art that I enjoy. You know, I always buy what I enjoy for $7. And I think that a block nine sat in the future could be $100. Just the sat
Now,
alone.
for anyone listening that's not ordinals first. Could you explain to them block 9 and the significance of that?
Yeah. So, January 3rd, 2009. If we go to my website, I documented the exact moment. I created a time chart. Yeah, if you go there, we'll look at that. Let's see. So the Genesis block was block 9 on January 3rd at 1815 GMT. So that's when Bitcoin originated. It's when it had began, and that was Satoshi Nakamoto's effort to create a new asset class. I heard this amazing description yesterday about Bitcoin in general, that it's not necessarily to compete with the dollars, but it's more um, to compete with the banking system. That it's more of a structural component to so you and I could transact without a middleman. And the value, the dollar, the number is irrelevant to the fact that you and I could communicate or send a value back and forth. And I forget who it was, but it kind of clicked in my brain. But so within the Bitcoin blockchain, it's a limited supply of 21 million, and at the granular level, there's the satoshis, and I believe it's 100 million per Bitcoin. And I'd have to Google that, but I think that's what it is. So within the block 9, which was the first transaction that Satoshi sent to Hal Finney. I believe it was to Hal Finney. And then the block 78s was the block that Hal received. And that back in that day, there weren't that many nodes. So we're currently averaging 144 Bitcoin blocks per day. So it's every 10 minutes. On average, the block moves. I think it fluctuates. You'll see these 60-minute hangers, but on average, that's what it is. But back in that day, there wasn't that many nodes, and I think they were averaging maybe 10 a day. So the block 78 block didn't happen that same day. If it was nowadays, that would happen on that January 3rd. But I want to say block 78 happened on about the 9th. It was about 6 days later. And it's just the relevance to me of that time in that space. And even when I look back at my early art, that looks a little more compressed than I would want, but I still think it's beautiful. I mean, I consider it petroglyphs, the glitch gold and some of that early stuff. So yeah, I think that's kind of in a nutshell, the story of.
That's great. And we even have some live comments as we're talking in the Discord, people saying this is great because they need more grounding in ordinals because they want to participate, especially on the art side. And it's just not as accessible to them.
Let me run with this because I had a piece called Break Me Free. And again, it's another statement about censorship and freedom. And it's a character, it's a hooded character. I've got this hooded theme of anonymity that I think is important for the space. And I think it's okay to be anonymous. And the Break Me Free, I had done this piece and I was trying to get the 404 sat. And 404 is a symbolism for lost, not found. And so I wanted to make this statement about not finding freedom. And again, not as educated as some in the space, but how incredibly cooperative the space is. So I put it to the universe that I was looking for the 404 sat. And in back channels, people hit me up and said that that's impossible. And I didn't quite understand it, but it was shared with me. So these sats, in the first 1,000 blocks, there's only about 20 of them that are what's called sequentiated or sequential. So that basically they're ordered. So in the case, the only way to put art in that early stuff is it's had to move from a wallet to a wallet. 90% of it is sitting dormant in these wallets that are part of the Genesis. So back then,
right,
the block reward was 50 Bitcoin. So there are chunks of 50 Bitcoin. So those first 100 or 1,000 blocks would have been from 50. Okay, so let me get this right. So 50 Bitcoin per block, or per was the reward back then. But I guess my point is that there's only a handful of blocks that have been moved between wallets, and until the blocks move, and hopefully some of these whales who are sitting on this Bitcoin will then move those wallets, that then an artist could access it to be able to put the art into it. And for me, I've collected the 9s, the 78s, the 286, the 666. There's a 486 in circulation, but for the most part, the one piece that I had, I've also been trying to purchase all of my early art. I was able to purchase a piece and burn it, and spend the time to compress it again to get it onto Bitcoin. Um, and I put that on the 666 block because, from a story standpoint, that one is the one that resonated with me the most.
Yeah, can I just say I've never really connected the dots this way, because we talk all the time about how we love when people, especially on ETH, can leverage the blockchain as part of the art, right? There's creators that do innovative things with the contract itself, and that is part of the art, like cohesively. And you sharing how you intentionally sought after these specific blocks because of how it added to the story and the intention of the art that you're using is super dope. Like, I'm so glad that you were able to share that with everybody tuning in, especially from our community who has a lot of questions about ordinals and the art side of it. So that's awesome.
Yeah, and so when I was going down looking for this 404 sat, which to me in my mind connected, so it's that one piece there that you had up called "Break Me Free," and then with the hands covering the face. Like, to me, that was just a really statement piece about, um, see nothing, say nothing, hear nothing. You know what I mean? It's like that's how we're being controlled right now. And then just I did like a chromatic abbreviate. Aberration on it to make it so it pulses, and he's like trying to rip his face off. Like, it's just, I don't know, it was powerful, and that's a 4-frame animation. um that it just spoke to me, and it was just this magical piece that I thought was really important, given how we are being at the moment. Things have changed a little bit, but how we are being, controlled, in the story, the narrative that's being controlled or sent to us, given the algorithms that are out there in play. And Jack Dorsey had a
Right.
thing yesterday, how he was just talking about how, the next evolution should be that we should be able to have our own algorithms, and we should be able to choose what algorithm we want, to decipher or to, disseminate our media platforms and stuff, which is, there's so much depth and thought that goes into all this stuff. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's been an amazing journey. Obviously,
Yeah. Yeah.
I love it. I embrace it. I'm looking forward, to the future, and 2025 is off to a great start.
We actually got a question. I got a question DM to me, and someone had asked, can you ask how he found his way into the crypto and NFT art space? So I
Um,
think I heard that Bitcoin was your first exposure. You said you had some from quite a long time ago, so you were dabbling in crypto. And I think I could be wrong, but looking at your wallet, you were collecting for some time before you started, creating your own.
Absolutely, yeah. I living in the town that I'm living in, I had run into some other degenerates who were ahead of me, and basically kind of laid out the roadmap for me of like, hey, if you're going to get into this. And I think I got the Robinhood app, and I bought some Bitcoin and some Ethereum and started dabbling. And then I discovered that the Robinhood app wasn't the right app for me because, I didn't realize that you couldn't send it out of your wallet to a cold storage, and I had, hodled quite a bit, And then it was like the metaphor was like going to buy a brand new car at the dealership, but you can't drive it off the lot. But you could visit the dealership anytime you wanted, and you could drive the
Right,
car
right,
around the
yeah.
dealership. And so, whatever the
By the
pivot.
way, PayPal did that as well. Like they rolled out this announcement that it was like you could buy and take custody of the crypto that you would purchase at the time. And I think Coldy actually dropped a piece. This was a few years ago. It was on I think it was on Looks Rare. I was like, man, I need some ETH to grab some of these, and grabbed a bag of ETH. I think ETH at the time was like $1,000, and then I went to go use it and couldn't. And I was pissed at PayPal for the longest time, but now it became a hodl bag where I'm like up, a decent amount. So shout out to PayPal. It was kind of whack at the time, but you did lead me to making some nice gains. So I'll keep that on the scoreboard for the time being.
That is brilliant. Yeah. And Coldy is, Coldy and I shared an office here, and he's kind of, I had been exposed to it, through his eyes. And he actually helped me get that first piece on chain and walked me through the process of Looks Rare and whatnot. So massive shout outs to him. And I'm a huge supporter of him. And he's got a sharp machete. He's been cutting and blazing and doing incredible things and had a successful physical thing. I think he most recently did over at Tiffany's, or not Tiffany. I forget which. Oh, Christie's. Yeah, Christie's and Tiffany's, got those mixed up. But
yeah, the physical. I think it was a decentralized variant. It was a physical, or it could have been another one of his series. But yep, the physical statue as well.
Yeah. So.
But
actually, now go ahead.
Well, you just reminded me. I saw that you were dabbling in physicals as well. I think I saw that you were making some lenticular versions, some lenticular panels of some of your works.
Yeah, so I did do this. I love this stuff. It's unbelievable. And those are 2-frame animations with these lenticulars. And that was kind of a thank you to the people that had purchased the hoodlums. And the hoodlums are a 6-frame animation. So and then I just fell in love with that. I love to take those 2 shows. I'm going to go to NFT Paris, and then I'm going to do Vegas this year, the BTC conference in Vegas. I was fortunate enough to have the kind of the big brother of that piece called Hues of Bitcoin. I did one called Neon Bloom that got curated for Bitcoin Amsterdam, for inscribing Amsterdam. And so I went over to Amsterdam for that first inscribing Amsterdam show, which was just amazing, and got to just meet so many incredible people. And I'm so happy, like even that you're showing the Fudstone piece, that was just again a pretty much a community thing as a result of the runestone, what Leonidas had done, and 2,200 people aped that. And I think it was a weekend, like 3 days.
Wow.
And it's nice. It's nice when the community really vibes with it. And Leonidas happened that. And it's funny, Leonidas and Trevor were on a space, and it was a little over a year ago. It was December of 2023. And that's how I got exposed to Casey's early artwork of this stuff that, eventually became the Recode. And I had kind of done my twist on one of the pieces and shared it back with Leonidas. And I was looking for the tweet here because he responded. It was on December 23rd of 2023. And I said something like, should I inscribe this? And he said, oh my God, those are sick. Like, yes, do it. And which started this journey of eventually downloading everything off of Casey's GitHub and making a production workflow for that. And then slowly inscribing that over 8 months, or not inscribing, making that over 8 months. And then it was in August that I had kind of come to the end of that. And, the process of parent-child is, I use the Unisat wallet with my rare sats, and then I will then kick it out to an Xverse wallet. And again, it's a process, and any artists out there, hit me up. I'm always love to share. It's the more the merry, is my opinion. I don't any reason to have competition or anything like that. I just think there's enough room for everyone to succeed. And but
So,
in the yeah, go ahead.
well, I just since we're already here, I'd love to just give this a little context for everybody. So the Recode project, I believe this is an upcoming release. Yours releasing tomorrow to coincide with the Genesis block, right?
Correct. Yep.
And so you took some of Casey's work that he had done and just put out there into the world of CCO, and you redid it in your style, adding some glitch elements and inscribing them on specific blocks with intent, and that's the release. I've seen a lot of people saying that they're excited about this actually.
Yeah. So they're all on Block 9 450Xs. And I'm excited. You know, it was a long process to do all 44 of them. Um and I kind of did some early access, so I'm very honored that a lot of people wanted in on this. And so much like, you know, Casey liked 42. I basically, whatever, he could have anything he wanted, and that's what he liked. Aaron liked 41. Danny from OCM liked 20. You know, I had a few people kind of just look, and then they yeah, there's 42. And then the one beside it is the one Danny likes. So there's going to be there's only going to be 20 of the 44. There's only 23 that are going to make it to public. The rest have already kind of been aped. And but yeah, no, it was his original 44 pieces that he had done generatively. And I, you know, kind of took them and did my spin on them with, you know, I love RGB splitters and just like shifters, and you know, just like almost all these different little pedals, you know, that you can push and play with. And they're all 6-frame animations, and just really did weird stuff, you know, and just had fun doing it. um and Yeah, I'm excited to let it go. You know, it's been a journey. I really don't sell a lot of my work. I've had people that want to get the glitched golds and the grails and whatnot, and these ones I had made, and I was gonna let these go. And again, you know, I make what I like. You know what I mean? I make what connects with my brain, and my brain's active in a why awake, and you know, just always just kind of humming. So
Super dope. I think it's so important with ordinals to understand the narrative of the why and what's trying to be expressed. And I think that's kind of a gap that we have with our communities, trying to, you know, if people are curious, how can they, you know, ascertain that on their own, right? Whatever they have time and they're going to go, you know, surf or try to read up on some different things and how to find that. So that's part of the reason I was so excited to talk with you, is to have, you know, finally have some representation of someone from Ordinals come through and school some of the community here, but also share some of these amazing connections of why the art intrinsically is so different and people get excited about it.
it's I for me, I just love it. I mean, it was one of those things where I just kind of started going down this rabbit hole, and I had shared it with Leonidas and Trevor, and they thought it was dope. And it was just kind of sitting there, and I had been working on other art. And um and but I really, you know, being in Northern California and being close enough to San Francisco to go down to Casey Rodamore's, you know, and Casey Rodamore's the one that created the ordinal theory, that allows us to put ordinals on chain. And just to thank him, and how humble and subtle he is. And then a portion of the proceeds that go from this is going to go to the Bitcoin core developers. Um, and it's funny because I told him, I said I wanted to give back, you know, and he had mentioned a woman named Gloria, who's one of the core devs. And he says, you don't have to. And I said, well, I want to. You know, I mean, it's more about a want. Um, and so that it's just important for me to give back. You know, I mean, you know, we're not going to be here. You know, the beauty of the Bitcoin chain, you know, having, you know, running my own node is that, you know, it's going to outlive us. You know what I mean? And that's why I wanted to put my kids' stuff on chain. I had a fluke accident and I almost died. a few weeks, well, I guess it's 2 months ago, I got rear-ended by a gasoline tanker that was carrying 10,000 gallons of gas and went through the right side.
Whoa.
And thank God he valued me enough not to T-bone me, but he went through my back right corner and hit my axle. And but he laid the rig down. Like he loved life enough to try and miss me, and he dropped it, and he's put this rig on its side and spilled 10,000 gallons of gas over by Napa in those on Highway 37. And it really changed a lot of things for me. Like I really adjusted my finances, and this is for anybody listening, just thinking downstream and long term. I made sure I got my kids on my beneficiaries. I made sure that everything was lined up, and I sat my kids down with my wallets and kind of gave them a roadmap. If something does happen to us, you want to make sure that that this stuff can pass along. I was just thinking, like, all this stuff in my wallets, it would just be, these wallets would just go cold, and this art would just sit there. And so it's just, you really not to be, whatever, but it's, life goes fast, and it's quite the journey, and really think about downstream and think about your loved ones. And, I'm a big fan of, like, just tell people you love them. Like, the more, the merrier.
Yeah. I mean, so much of what you do talks about the intent of why you're creating, and it's certainly a lot of things. And the financialization is not the driving reason why you're doing it, right? And I think that's important for collectors as well. We talk all the time in our community to collect what you love because it's meaningful to you, and it's great when we talk with creatives and understand how they're doing that the same way. So thank you so much for sharing that, and thank you to the truck driver to for laying his truck down and letting you stay here with us, because you have so much to offer, and in so many ways. Someone actually asked, and before I move forward too much, how would you characterize your style and aesthetic? We see glitch, we see graffiti. You mentioned your affinity for gold, so I think that kind of ties in there. But how would you characterize what it is?
It's just purposeful. I mean, it's really, like I say there, it's chaotic and reflective and on chain. I mean, I've really moved to that on chain thing. As much as I love my ETH stuff, and I moved from ETH over to Tezos and really found my legs in Tezos. There was just something about that culture of really affordable art, and then not having pretty much any file constraint. I think 100 megs. I mean, you could do a lot with 100 megs. And just kind of playing with glitch and looking at the legends and looking at what Xcopy had done, and people that I really look up to, and just playing with stuff. And then when the ordinal space happened, just moving over there, and literally, I kid you not, I was up for pretty much 3 months straight, just putting everything possible on chain, from astrophotography to photography to, in the case I didn't know what I was doing, I put my signature on there. And that was just a blessing, because now I parent to that on so many levels. And there's so many different ways to make the provenance really cool within Bitcoin, in the sense of having a signature. Like I helped Pyman put his signature on, like that neon bloom piece. Like that was the piece that was, that's the one that went to Amsterdam. So that was that piece that was in Inscribing Amsterdam, and that sold for, I don't know, 0.05 a while back, and someone looks like they're listing it for 0.33. But I love that piece. It speaks to me, the tulips, and being able to get that much color into a piece, and that's on an uncommon sat. And that, the inscribing, I think Roth inscribed that. So there was a handful of parent-child situations in that whole first, inscribing Amsterdam conference, and just honored to be in that kind of group. I think there was 12 or 13 people that got curated for that, very first show in Amsterdam, and that piece got really good exposure, and I just love it. I mean, just
Yeah. I recall seeing that on the timeline actually, and some different pictures, as well as your own, right? I saw it. It was
It Bitcoin
live on the
Magazine
space.
actually, yeah, Bitcoin Magazine actually used that on the website for
Super dope.
the conference for 24. Um, and Erin had pointed, I didn't even know it, and Erin had pointed that out to me because she's tied into, the whole Nolcha shows and whatnot. So and I'm excited about going over to Paris as well for NFT Paris. I haven't been able to travel as much as I'd like. I've just been really busy, and in the Writers Guild strike and the Screen Actors Guild strike a couple years ago really was helped me because I really wasn't working that much, and I was able to really go crazy on this. And I'm currently on 2 different shows working simultaneously, and I've got a really busy 3 weeks ahead of me, and then I'll peel one show off, and then I'll just have one show that I'll be working on pretty much full time. So I'm really
Yeah,
happy to be working again, but um, this is my passion, is making these art pieces, and I've really fell in love with Procreate. My daughter got me into Procreate, so I've been doing a lot of hand drawn stuff, and then modeling stuff, and but the hand drawn stuff has kind of been just to me is just so organic, and playing with brushes, and my daughter's just getting me up to speed on some stuff. Let me silence my phone.
yeah, and it's funny you say that because I have a mini nightmare as well, and he loves Procreate. Specifically, he likes to use it like a live performance tool. Like he makes art, but he wants me to sit next to him, and as he's going through the various effects and filters, almost like it's a a progressive 5 minute show, right? It's fascinating. I love that he uses it like that, and he likes to play music while he's doing it. So it's fun to see how kids without expectations or constraints will just um have the freedom to do whatever they want and what they come out with. But that being said, you just reminded me of something. You mentioned that with Procreate, made me think of the music tie-in with Mini Night over here. You've experimented a few times with music as well, and I think that's one of the first things that made me perk up and pay attention because you incorporated it in a meaningful way with the piece from 2022 that we referenced with the Snoop Dogg. I think
Yep.
I saw also you kind of commissioned someone to rap a song that you wrote and produced to mint it on the blockchain on Bitcoin also. So like music's something that you tie in pretty frequently as well.
Absolutely. I'm a music junkie. I was a DJ in college. I just love music. I wanted to write an anthem. It's a Bitcoin rap song. We got it inscribed about the 14 millions. And again, that was another thing. It lo-fi. I mean, it's totally lo-fi. The song I think landed on the block at a minute 53. I see there. It was originally 2:38. We had to take out a couple choruses and a couple runs just to get the time down to a way that I could compress it. I ended up squashing the hell out of it because I didn't want to slice it up and put it back together as a recursive, which a lot of people had recommended. And so this one got on the chain at what, 340-ish kilobits. And I put it on their July 4th, which was like to me Independence Day. And so it's an anthem. It's just really cool. This guy Artie Fresha, I had done a show for MTV, and he was in this band called Picket Line, and he's a local kid artist here in the Sacramento region. And we had always done some really cool stuff together, and I really respected him. And he has a gift with, digital music, and so I gave him the lyrics, and then we tweaked it a little bit, and then we reworked one of the lines to mention El Salvador in there, and I just
Yeah,
love
and
it.
it
I
was
just
pretty
love the
dope.
piece.
Like I was like, did he produce this beat as well? This is pretty fire.
Oh man, he did it all. We did, it was one of the last things was recording the Bitcoin chime when on
Yeah.
the mempool.
Yeah, I see a
Um,
comment in here that people thought that particular part was a super nice touch. Yeah,
and
you're
then
right. I
he
listened to it, like, but I'll be honest with you that like it kind of hit me. It kind of appealed in like a retro flair kind of way. It reminded me of listening to like real audio compression, like
And
back in
it
the
is
early internet
compressed.
days.
I think I had to move it down to like 44 kilobits, just because that's really the only area that you can throttle it down. So it sounds lo-fi. It's not like pop and full. It's still stereo, but again, it's part of the journey. I mean, it's part of being a pioneer in the space. I have since put more music on. I just inscribed another dubstep called Gadstep. I put it in there over the weekend. I'm starting to lay more music into wallets that there's a piece on Gamma called Portal, and I think I did the first known piece that I know of that has a musical score on a click to play. If you tap the ordinal, it'll start playing, and it's got this really cool. If you go down, there's a guy standing at a doorway. That one there, that Portal one, and that's got a really cool music score on it.
Oh wow.
And so when you just tap it, it has this really ethereal, it's a vocal score bed. And having come from the film and television industry, I've been tapping into the artists that have allowed me to use their libraries for different TV shows that I work on. And so I'm just kind of peeling off some stuff. And I found that if I keep it under about a minute, I can inscribe it, and I can keep it at about 96 hertz, and it still sounds banging. And so there's a lot of surprise, a lot of I've been laying down a lot of carrots in a bunch of different places to make some cool stuff, because I'd like to have more music on art.
It's super fire, and we have some creatives in our community as well. We have this kind of amalgamation of creators and collectors and just enthusiasts and all things Web3, like in our community. But we have some creators that are just like, hey,
let me throw this on there. The Portal piece. If you guys, any music artists out there, and I laid this ground, and Salam used it. If you go back to that piece and go back to the parent of that, the original of that, and then go over to Ord.io. I laid the code in there, and I left the code with descriptions on what to change so you could just swap it out. So there's I left the lines in the code that says change this element for the picture and this element for the music. If you're going to go that route, make sure that you lay your music down as an MP3. I made the mistake of laying down a music only MP4. And it still will play, but a lot of the browsers won't recognize that. So that piece there, that Portal, it's three components. It's a visual WebP animation with a separate MP3 music file, and then you have to recursively attach those together. So if you go down and on that Portal, you hit the original, take that original ID code, go over to Ord.io, and you can put that in there and pull the original piece up. And then on Ord.io, on that, there is a little thing that looks like the arrow signs with a slash. If you click on that, it'll reveal the HTML code, and you can copy and paste that and just do whatever the hell you want to do.
That's super dope. I can't believe we're 5 before the hour. This is going to run a little bit over if you have time and don't mind.
Absolutely, yeah, yep.
Oh, okay. So one of the things I wanted to make sure I touched on is, I found it really fascinating to watch kind of your creative, I don't want to say journey, because you've been creating for the longest time, but I guess kind of settling in and kind of finding, finding your focus in the NFT space. Because we have a lot of creators that voice their frustration with not getting an audience, or they're not getting traction doing X, Y, and Z. And kind of, I saw the progression that you mentioned, right? You came in, you were doing a lot of things on Ethereum. Obviously you have less constraints there, so you were able to use different types of media or whatever. I recall when you moved to Tezos, if I'm not mistaken, there was a period where you went pretty hard on like trash art and that movement a little bit. And then I saw more and more glitch being incorporated as well. All this could have been happening at the same time, but in my mind, this is like a progression of you kind of going through different things and experimenting, and then ultimately landing in Ordinals, where like it's clear that that Ordinals was a community and a tech and an art realm specifically that really resonated with you, but also you resonated with that community. Like it really was a turning point, I feel like, and people really recognizing your talents and taking it to kind of a different level. Can you talk about that journey for me? Because I think a lot of people are trying to find their way and understand, how they can, stick with what they're doing, find the place where they resonate and have an audience, and how they can make an impact.
Yeah, it's all about just believing, believing in yourself and just doing what you like. And then hope that, people connect with it. I mean, and, it's a journey, like you said, going from ETH, and finding kind of the legs there and then moving over to Tezos. Tezos has a really organized community, and the trash stuff, Robness, and there's a handful of people, Empress Trash, and, a whole bunch of people in that world really push that envelope forward. Hold on a second. And then the ordinal space, just coming over to that and being, in a sense appreciated, or people really starting to see, the potential in the art and what you're trying to do. I mean, like, everything I've done is really makes sense to me. Like that bit wave over there is going to have music added to it. To me, that was, I mean, that's an audio form, and that piece is going to have some legs. And for anybody out there, it's just show up. I mean, I think in the world of Hollywood, Woody Allen said 99% of success is just showing up. The 10% is, just doing the hard work and stuff, but half of it is just, being there in the space. And for me, it's really important to help other artists, and onboard and just always just be kind of like a big brother, I mean, and do whatever I can do to help the space out and just fill it full of love and leave cool stuff, as cool as I can make, and as an artist, there's room to grow, and that's what I love. I love the challenge of the file constraints and playing with some stuff. I'm trying to make, I'm just trying to push myself, I mean, and do cool stuff all the time. I don't know if I answered that very well.
Yeah,
but
no, you definitely did, and I love your experimentation and willing and excitement to do it all the time. I think I heard you say in another interview at one point, "Don't think, just do." Right? Like,
absolutely,
don't.
that's my mantra to my daughters, is just don't think, just do. Like, that's the thing, is fear will really stop you in your tracks. And even, we live up in the mountains, so we have a lot of rivers that run through here, and a lot of times, we like to go jumping off rocks into big pools at the river. And my girls would just put this up. I'm like, just don't think, just do. Just think about the process. Run, jump, clear the rock, don't hit your head, and just get into the water, get into the deep spot. So just, yeah, don't think, just do. That's like how I live my life.
I love it. What would you say are some of your favorite pieces that you've created? If people were going to say, "Hey, this is kind of, um, you know, this is kind of an encapsulation of his work," what would you recommend they go check out?
Well, it's interesting. What we're looking at right there is that Hoodsy piece, and that Hoodsy collection series has had, that, to me, that piece really represents the end of the day. And this was like sitting down after a hard day of slaying and making art and being in the moment. And that piece was really well received. And I was part of the first Gamma artists program, and they brought in either 10 or 12 in the very first phase, and they still curate and bring in more artists. But that one sold out instantly. There was 100 of those pieces in the print editions. And then there was a follow-up to that called Hooded. And the Hooded piece was was the beginning of the morning. So standing in these vibrant colors, and getting ready for the day. And so those two pieces really bookend the journey for me. I do like that flex piece. I would say that piece, that one there is kind of the evolution of my hand drawn stuff, and just being in that space, and just that's, just being proud, and basically Bitcoin running up. So God, I love them all. That's the problem, much
Right.
like even the hoodlum stuff. I don't even want to sell it, um, but I'm happy that people want to collect that and use that as their identity and stuff. So, just honored. I love the process. I love it all. I wouldn't put it out there unless I loved it. You know what I mean? And
Right.
and if you go down just a little teeny bit, the angel and the devil there, the Genesis 666, that was the piece that most recently I had put an offer in, and I had purchased that back. That was on Tezos, and I was able to burn that and then figure out how to reinscribe that. But that is on a 666 block, sat.
Again,
Uh,
again, super dope to me that you shared with me. Like I never even knew to look for that as kind of a tie-in, much like we do the contract on some of these ETH projects. So that's fire. Now that I get a little FOMO for some of these, block intention tie-ins to the artworks.
and again, there's so much depth and thoughts, and there's so many carrots and Easter eggs inside all of this art, that is fun for me. I mean, and some people will find it and some people won't. So the beauty of it is I had fun making it, and I love the journey. I mean, it is a journey. I mean, it's still so early. It's insane.
Definitely. I had some questions for you because we have a lot of people in our community that were excited about this just because it's kind of their first opportunity to have a more, I guess, training wheels on introduction and someone walk them through a little bit of the art side of ordinals. So
Yep.
some questions in that realm, if you don't mind. How would you characterize the crypto art side of ordinals? Clearly a lot of people can go to Magic Eden and look at a lot of the PFP community type collections and tie-ins, which in my opinion has a little bit more utility and is a little bit differentiated than what we see in other chains. But as far as the art side, the crypto art side, that seems a little bit more mysterious to our community. How would you characterize it?
You mean the ordinal side?
Correct, the art centric ordinals community. So not like, if not,
I think that if I think I think there's a lot of room to grow. I think that it's underappreciated and undervalued. There's a handful of artists that I'm still buying and collecting their work, and I don't necessarily flex that just because I want to still pick up stuff that I enjoy. I think it'll have its day. I think that Billy Resty, and there's a handful of people that have gone through the Sotheby's route. And I do think that it will have its day. I do think that the community is more, the PFPs and the large batches. I'm a small batch guy. 100's a lot for me. For my glitch gold's 36, and those are all sub 1 million. There would have been a couple more in there, but what happened in 23 was that the mempool raged, and a handful of pieces sat in the mempool and took 3 to 4 months to come out the other side. And yeah, I think that it's going to have its day. I mean, I do think that there are some amazing artists coming into the space, and I think that's incredible. The more the merrier. Yeah, I think, yeah, I think it'll have its day. I mean, I'm happy. I think a lot of my stuff's done really well, and we'll just see. I mean, I don't necessarily know how to answer that other than
yeah, I mean,
I believe. You know what I mean?
we appreciate your honesty. I think a lot of people are, challenged to wrap their head around it. So having your insight is invaluable. Someone asked just really quickly, is there an active secondary market? I would think not so much at this point, right? I think a lot of people are still looking to discover artists and try to, hodl things that
On
they
the
find, but
one-on-one
I could be
stuff there,
wrong.
on the one-on-one stuff there, I don't really. I mean, there's a handful of people that are doing some stuff. I would
Mhm.
say that most of my 101 stuff is sold OTC. Um, and but I haven't really sold much stuff. Like I haven't even listed stuff. Like even the glitch gold, I've had a lot of people ask about that. I still don't think that we even have any imagination of what this stuff is worth. So to me, to sell some of this stuff, I think it's short sighted at this phase. I think there's only a small percentage of people in here. I do like what Gamma's done with the prints. I've done less prints lately. And I'm really laying into the 101 stuff and really trying to lay, I just kind of cobbled together a lot of stuff and made that collection called Grails by Gadfly. And that's going to grow over time. I'm making another piece for that.
And Prince is the equivalent of editions, right?
That is correct. Yep.
Right.
Yep. They make what's called a delegate. So you'll have the master print or the master ordinal. And from that, you can set it up and make, what they call as prints or editions. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. I know you said that you're still actively trying to collect, so I'm not trying to put you in a tough spot here, but one of the questions that people have asked pretty frequently, and maybe there's some that you'd be okay sharing, is if people are trying to explore this, clearly, you're an incredible artist. Who are some ordinal native creatives? Like people that focus on ordinals, not people that have dabbled because they want to go cross chain. Ordinal native creatives or collections, I guess, that people should know to understand the art scene on Bitcoin. Like if someone was talking to you about NFTs on Ethereum, they might say, hey, you got to check out X copy, check out Coldy, check out, X, Y, and Z. Are there any people you would recommend or artists that you would throw out there that people should know to get grounded in the art scene on Bitcoin?
Absolutely. Yeah. Like I'm a big fan of Lemon Haze. I'm a big fan of bourbon. Billy Resti's done some great stuff. Solemn's done some great stuff. Solemn comes from ETH. I actually have quite a few of his pieces on the ETH side. And then a lot of people are starting to come over slowly, but I would say that Lemon and Solemn and I have kind of been in the ordinal space since the beginning. I know ZK and Tony, what they've done. Danny with OCM. But those are larger batches. You know what I mean?
Right. On-chain monkeys, right?
Yeah, on-chain
Yep.
monkeys. And Danny loves the recode. Danny got number 20 of the recodes. But in the small batch world, there are a handful of artists like Ika. I really love what she's done with some stuff. She's done some stuff in 3-dimensional. So some people are bringing in some augmented reality into their art collections, that you could have the app and kind of see it in a 3D space. So it's a slow process, but there's more and more people coming all the time. But that off the top of my list, off the top of my head, that's kind of what just jumps out. I'm sure I'm missing a ton of people, but I'm just a big fan of Lemon Haze.
Yeah,
I
that's a
love what
great
he's
rabbit
doing.
hole for us to get started with.
And a lot of people have leaned into the generative side of things, which is code based, which is beautiful. It's art, just because it's it's just more cost effective. I mean, a lot of people have leaned into that, just because you can make a HTML code file and inscribe that for $20. And everything I do is really file. Just there's so much info in these 300 kilobit files, but they're much more expensive. You know what I mean?
Right.
To inscribe. You're looking anywhere from 200 to $1,000 to inscribe. But I look at it as like, hey, if Bitcoin goes to $1 million, that would have been 2,000 to 10,000 to inscribe. I do see really long term here. I mean, I don't really see things, but I'm a little bit older. I mean, and I see the big picture. I mean, I see decades ahead.
I mean, people, I mean, no one knows what could happen, not financial advice. I'm not projecting anything, but people have had this conversation about ordinals, about runes, about the AI agents and these type of things, saying that there's going to be a slingshot effect, right? Like people once the value proposition is understood, and if these tokens go where they're capable of, given the environment, we'll be looking back at this with little different perspectives. So I think a lot of people that are tapped in are trying to get a hold of things and creatives that they love, thinking long term, which is dope. Like, how many times do people wish they had that opportunity on Ethereum, right? And so that's in front of people right now on Bitcoin. And you definitely gave us some dope names to check out. We were actually just talking the other day in one of our channels on Discord. Someone asked, "Hey, does Whale have a Vault Ordinals wallet?" Because they wanted to send some stuff, and we don't. So it sounds like we probably should establish one and make some moves here. So thank you again for those names.
Absolutely, send it. I'll send you some art.
Hey, that would be absolutely fire. We'll talk more about that later. Someone asked, what are some key differences people should know who are curious and looking to get involved in collecting art on Bitcoin but haven't yet? Anything besides the normal call outs when it's participating in ordinals and whatnot?
I think it's the mantra is always just buy what you like. You know what I mean? Just whatever connects with you. I wouldn't buy it for the potential of up or down. I mean, that's the beauty of the art, is that if you buy something you enjoy, the price or the number is irrelevant.
Yeah, I mean,
or if I'm missing the question, what do you?
No. That's advice that we give all the time, and I think that it applies just here just as well. I think they meant more from a technical perspective, like, hey, look out for things with this set number. This is more valuable.
Okay. Here's my big advice on that. Okay, so like, on the Magic Eden website, sometimes when you go to the ordinal art, it'll say this is an on-chain representation. Make sure that you look on chain. So if you go to, so pick one of those, Nightmare. Let me walk you through that. Okay, so scroll down under the details, and there's a line that says, where is it at? Link. See where it says content link? To the right of the content line, and there's a little link. Click that. Always click that. And that is going to take you to what is actually on chain. And don't get nothing against, but some of this art, I'm not going to throw it under the bus, but some of the art was inscribed and it doesn't look very good. But Magic Eden allows you to do proxies, so you can put high res art on chain on the website. But just make sure that I always tell people to look on chain. Make sure you go to that content link and click on it and actually see it, because sometimes you'll see stuff that looks like mud.
Right.
If you look there, and if you hover over, okay, I don't want to throw them under the bus, but if that artwork was not on chain, so what you're looking on that page right there is the on chain art. But what would happen is when your mouse clicks over the image, it would say, this is an on-chain representation of the artist's art. And that you're going to see that. Just be aware of that.
So the actual on-chain is muddy, overcompressed, or whatever, and they put higher resolution as the preview images, right?
Exactly.
So especially on Bitcoin, being on-chain is that's one of the most important features, right? Whereas Ethereum, there's IPFS or whatever, right?
So there's another project I want to tell people about called Pandemonium. And again, if you are an art collector, Pandemonium is it's PANDEM. It's a bird. DEM. Yeah, the second one down. Yeah, no, Birds of the Feather, the top one. This is a really amazing collection. These are totally undervalued. If you hold one of those in your wallet, and I have a whole bunch of these, so I have one in pretty much all my wallets, it opens up what's called an Ordi gallery. It's the only one in the space that allows you to have a gallery. And you can put your Oculus on, and you can go much like on Cypher. It's the only one only project out there that has just a ton of value into it. Um, the artist is, I think, called The Artist is the one that did this. But you get the benefit of the Ordi gallery if you hold that. So if you ever want to really view your art, and again, this is a missing link in this space, because the ETH community and the Tezos community has these amazing um, connections with on Cypher, which I think is just an amazing user experience to really, because the one thing, and again, this, I guess could have been mentioned earlier. One of the things that I think is missing in the space is galleries, because there isn't really a great way to see the art on your walls yet, unlike ETH. ETH has that advantage. There are certain, frames that you can purchase in your home and have them up, and there are apps that are integrated. But again, that's part of being early in this process. It's still maturing. Having been in this space since day one, we were doing OTCs. There wasn't a marketplace. We were all, if we liked each other's art, we were, old school bartering, trading art. But now it's come so far. There are, rare art marketplaces. I'm a big fan of satting, what Corey's done with Magisat to buy rare sats. It's growing, but there's a lot of room for improvement. And if anybody out there is a VC or whatever, I would love to, come up with a better system or a system in general to be able to get art on our walls in our houses. And heading back to that lenticular side that you had mentioned earlier, Nightmare, that was important for me. Was I wanted to get the art on the walls and having these 6-frame animations. So what I did was I took of the hoodlums. Hoodlums are 6-frame looped animation. So what I would do is I would take two frames that were as far opposite of each other, and then you put them into a lenticular, which is basically has a sheet above it that at a certain angle you see one frame, and at a certain angle you see another frame. So it gives them a little bit of 3-dimension. And then for those early collectors, I made what I was considering like early cell animations, like Disney did with their, you could purchase a frame of the animation. And that was the thing. So I made these little picture frames with 3 images. So they had all 6 frames of their hoodlums, and shipped those all around the world. So I've fortunately have collectors on almost every continent. So, and again, that was just something that I wanted to do. They didn't ask. It was just, I just asked, hey, if you're comfortable, send me a shipping address. And I shipped these off, and I thought they were cool. I wanted people. I'm just really proud of the works. I really wanted to have people hanging it on their walls.
That's amazing. Sir Gadfly, we'll have to do this again, because I feel like I've only been able to tap into a handful of my questions, and I had so much more I'd love to talk with you about. We'll probably do some offline, but we'd love to have you back on with the community again.
Honored, man. So honored.
We're coming up on 2:30, and I'll get all kinds of heat if I don't get some of these questions that the community gave me out there. So I'm going to take this last 10 minutes or so with you and kind of throw some rapid fire questions that people had given me from the community. And we'll cover off on some of the questions that people had. And this is a pretty frequent one I'm sure you've gotten before. Who are some of the artists that you are fans of in the broader NFT space as a whole?
I mean, obviously X Copy, and I do like Holdy's work. I've collected a bunch of his stuff. The Lemon Haze, I love Solemn stuff. There's another artist that I have a conversation with. His name is Schwank, and he's a traditional hand drawer, and he's just done some amazing stuff. I've purchased some of his stuff. I think he's so underappreciated. Yeah, those are that off the top of my head. Those are, the go-tos. I do like what Shepard Fairey did with the Obey stuff. I did collect some of his stuff, even leaning back on the ETH side, there's so much out there. It's just incredible that we have all these options to choose from.
What tech on deck are they building out for BTC and Ordinals that you are excited about?
I really can't talk about. There is some stuff happening in the back channels. One of the things I think that really would be great for one-on-one artists is more of the the Dutch auction, the Coldy auction kind of thing. But I think that has a lot of limitations given the BTC block and the Ethereum smart contracts. I think allows you to kind of plug and play more to customize an auction um, experience. So I think that's, if someone could crack that, that might be really good for one-on-one artists and for the small batch stuff.
That would be dope. That would be dope. Someone asked, what's the best way for someone new to Ordinals to just get familiar with everything going on in the art side?
I
Is
would
there a
say
resource or certain follow on Twitter?
I would definitely follow Leonidas and Trevor. They do the Ordinal show on Mondays and Wednesdays. Definitely, you got to follow Casey Rodomore. He's the one that created the Ordinal theory. Um, he has a great GitHub. And then just being plugged in general. I mean, for anyone, it's just I want to say get a wallet, put some Bitcoin in it. Gamma is a great place to go get kind of smaller batched artists very affordably. Um, um, Anywhere from 7 to 20. My one piece I've only got one piece on there that is still in kind of a primary situation. Um, and at the time, the goal was to keep these all about 20-30 bucks. um, but the price of Bitcoin has gone up so much that I think it's
Right.
about $40 to get it now. But when it was listed, the Break Me Free piece, there's about 30 of those left. So that that was originally listed at about 20-25 bucks, but I think it's up to 48, and I haven't adjusted that price point. But yeah, I would have to say that for me, the Xverse wallet has been a great wallet, and I use Unisat wallet for my rare sats. So I will mint out of Unisat, but I will then send the art over to Xverse. I find Xverse because it has a mobile component. Unisat's only browser based. I know that they talked about having a mobile version. Back in the early days, we were using Sparrow's wallet, but that is it's definitely more of an advanced user, and I'm sure your audience, there's a lot of advanced users out there. But the other thing, in the Bitcoin ethos is if you can, start a Bitcoin node. It really helps keep it decentralized, and that's the beauty of the ordinal art, is that it is, when we understood, or when you realize that the art is actually Satoshi's, so you're looking at Bitcoin. To me, that was like the game changer of all things, was that it's, you're paying, inscribing it is paying for immutable, infinity. The art was never going to go anywhere. I mean, it's going to be on chain forever. So it's like prepaying for your storage forever, and that to me was really important.
What a I had to take notes to share this afterwards because you went above and beyond with that answer for everyone to get grounded. Thank you so much. I got a couple more here. What do you feel is the next evolution and frontier for you in this space? Where do you want to go from here or in 2025?
Just making more dope stuff, continually to capture the moments in time. I love trying to make art that really embraces that moment in time. So when we're 10 years from now, we look back at and you see that Break Me Free piece, or you see Club Fed, you see Diddy in prison. Just it still trying to capture the moments in time, and leave time capsules that are cool, and that we can all, really, because as you get older, you look back and you remember things. You've got a kid, so these memories that you're having with your kid, you'll look back at the Procreate days of when you and your kid would sit together and do that. So again, just making more time capsules. I am exploring a lot of other things right now, but I'm a beginner in some ways, and I think that's, as a constant learner, that's one of the things, is just trying to improve. So yeah, just trying to learn and improve. I am exploring more of the generative stuff. I did some early generative stuff. There was a piece that I did called it was called Revolution, and I took one of my earliest Bitcoin logos as an RGB shift, and was able to recursively put a clock on it that is that senses your browser. That clock right there, whoever purchased one of those, whatever time zone you're in, it recognizes your IP, and it will show you your time anywhere you are in the planet. I thought that was a really cool piece. At the base level of that is one of my earliest works. And then I was able to recursively put a generative clock on top of it. And so just doing cool shit, like just really trying to innovate.
Yeah,
I love that. I wanted everyone to be able to have one of those. And again, that was, I think, was a free drop. I wanted everyone to get one.
Can I tell you something? I remember interviewing folks like in tail end of 2020, beginning of 2021, a lot of artists that were kind of pushing the limits of what they would try to do with the smart contract to have some interactivity or having some functionality externally with different contract standards or whatever, like more to the art. Like the art is dope. There's a lot more meaningful purpose from the way people participate or what it does, and that got me hyped up. Like the wheels are turning, smoke's coming out of the ears. Like my mind's gonna explode. Like the GIF. Like I'm like, this is so cool. This confluence of art and tech, and like all of this stuff that we can't even conceptualize yet. And there's been some progression certainly within what we could do for some time. But talking with you about Ordinals gives me that vibe again. Like I get excited about the capabilities and how you can push, but also how meaningfully intrinsic what you do has to do with the blockchain itself and the movement itself and the crypto ethos itself. So you're a great champion, steward, and advocate for the space, I have to tell you.
Well, and the revolution is just being on time. I mean, that was like part of that piece. And in obviously in the browser here, I'm looking at it, you're showing whatever 227. In
Right.
my browser here, it's 1128. So that was the cool thing about that piece, was that wherever you are in the world, it's going to show your time. So
super dope.
Again, it was, I just loved it. I thought it was cool. I loved that piece of artwork. It was round and it just fit that clock perfectly. So that the base one is, again, one of the pieces that was meant to make it into glitch gold, but it didn't make it through the mempool. And I wanted the glitch gold to all be sub 1 million. I just thought that would be a cool category at some point. We're at 81 million inscriptions now, which is just outrageous. It's incredible. So it's,
someone just DM'd me and said, can you ask him to explain in layman terms what recursively means?
Oh yeah. So recursion is basically and since I'm not really great at this, other than it's an HTML code based file. So in the case of the portal is a good explanation. So recursion allows you to take multiple elements and put them together. And so in the case of the portal piece, I had pre-inscribed the artwork as a WebP animation. And then in the case of the clock, it's a recursion because the base layer is an ordinal, but the clock is recursively pulling up that piece of art and then referencing the additional code to create the clock that has a responsive component to it, so it will fit to browsers. And so the recursion portion of art is basically putting together multiple elements to make it. A generative piece is all code based. So it's all code that makes beautiful whatever your imagination can be. But a recursion is pulling together multiple components. There's an art collection on Magic Eden, and I've shared this with people. It's called Art of the People. And I've used that art because it is an entire collection that is anchored in previous work. So they basically for whatever reason, basically drew upon all of the early, 10,000 ordinals, and they magically put it together. So recursively, you can do stuff, and with percentages, you can take art and repurpose it, and lay it. And if it has an alpha, you can put it all together. So hopefully that helps. And obviously, if it doesn't, if it didn't make sense, DM me and we can talk.
Yeah, no. It's a big rabbit hole. We just need a place to jump. So you definitely gave us that starting point. So thank you so much. Someone asked, do you have any collaborations in the works that we should watch out for? Give us some alpha, please.
No, I cannot.
Is that a no? You're not doing? You don't have one in the works,
No,
or no? You can't share
in my
it.
world, it's loose lips sink ships. So,
Okay, yeah.
it's I've got several discussions happening, but it's there's nothing to say until it's done. I mean, that's
I got you. Well, the anticipation is a gift, so thank you for that. Someone asked, have you experimented with runes at all? And if so, what are your thoughts on runes?
I have etched many, and they will. Yeah, I did etch several runes, and I made art to go with the runes. I did etch several BRC20s. And I just think that there will be a lot of potential, and there will be a lot of growth on that side. I was able to get in the I got into a project called Pizza Ninjas, with Trevor. And Trevor, one of the value utilities of that was he put a boot camp on, with Post Capone and with Alexa and Taha. And they did like a 3-week boot camp on how to set up your Ord client and how to etch. So I did that, and I did etch quite a few, and I haven't really told anybody what I etched. And I think those are going to be some carrots that will come about in the future. But yeah, I do think that there's a lot of
alpha leak. There, I knew someone would get it out of you. There's the alpha leak.
I do think that there is, again, the ecosystem is still like a little infant. And I do think that there's so much room for growth. There's so much room for everyone to come into the space. And I do think that I am a believer. I do believe that Bitcoin is going to help a lot of people. And I'm like everyone else, dollar cost averaging, and I'm a big fan of the Cash App, and I'm constantly buying, $100, $200, $500 of Bitcoin on a regular basis.
So yeah, whoever asked that, the infrastructure for runes on, say, centralized exchanges or whatever is not even really there yet. So lots of potential upside. But I think the interest here is, seeing would creatives on Bitcoin weave that into their practice, leverage that as something interesting they're doing. And it sounds like that you are. So that's cool to hear. I'm interested to see how that evolves over time. I don't even know if I should really ask you this one, but it came in late, and we got to wrap up. So I guess it makes sense. They ask, who is the best ranger and why is he green?
Oh my God. Okay. Who's the best ranger? I don't know, man. I like the black ranger myself.
There you go. You go.
And I'm old school. Like I was with Lightspeed Rescue and In Space, and back in the day, I was blessed to be, in a position to be in kids programming, and I'm a kid at heart. So I'm just full of energy, and I just believe in people, and I'm really just here to support the community, and really just understand that, just have good thoughts, good intentions, and you will be successful at whatever you want. Just have purpose.
Yeah, random nightmare story no one asked for, but I'm going to share it anyway. I have a younger brother, and one of my favorite things to do, he's about 8 years younger than me, is he'd be
Yep.
playing outside of our apartment. Like we lived in like a housing project, and he would be outside in the front yard with his buddies. He was like 5 or 6, and I would go to the box fan in the window and just tell them like, I am Lord Zordon. It was coming through the thing, and the kids are freaking out. They're like, "Whoa, what's going on?" And he'll reference that all the time. We just had Christmas. He's talking about it. He's never lived it down because I think he was in that zone. He was thinking he was getting the call.
That's cool, man.
Well, before we go, I just want to remind everybody, Recode tomorrow is releasing to coincide with the Genesis Block Super Dope project. Casey himself is a fan and scooped his piece. A lot of big people are loving this project, and I'm excited to see how this continues to go for you, who scoops some, and where these end up. And inevitably, I know that you're going to just continue to do super dope things. So I encourage everybody to follow Sir Gadfly. We're going to drop the socials in the chat as well so people can tune in and stay tapped in. Is that the best way to stay tapped in with you, on your Twitter?
That's fine. Yep, absolutely. Yep. And Happy New Year, everyone, man. It's 25. Stay alive. We're going to crush.
Most definitely. And you already have. I'm sure you'll continue to do so. Thank you again so much for taking some extra time with us for our community questions and sharing with everybody. It's been a pleasure, and we'll continue to stay tapped in. We'll do it again soon.
Yep. And my DMs are open. If you have any questions, hit me up.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.